We have some horrendous news coming out of Iraq today. The new Prime Minister, Haider Al-Abadi, said that the government lost 2,300 Humvees to ISIS in Mosul. 2,300 Humvees that we gave to Iraq, and now ISIS is driving around in them. So clearly us giving out Humvees and weapons all around the world, it always works out pretty well, doesn't it? So this happened last year, but we're just realizing the scope of the problem today. There's been various articles about this written today because just now the government is officially recognizing the disaster that it's been, and they're like, oh, we're missing 2,300 Humvees. That's a shame. Sucks that the worst barbarians on the planet have them, huh? Yeah, sure does. They say, quote, the Iraqi troops defending the city fled so hastily that some soldiers reportedly stripped off their uniforms and left behind the equipment they carried. Wow. Now, this also happened once before. Apparently, it happened again. ISIS likely obtained half a dozen tanks as well when they seized Ramadi. It's looking like a great idea that we created this Iraqi army and the Iraqi military, and we gave them billions of dollars worth of equipment. And let me give you some more facts on this. The Special Investigator General for Iraq Reconstruction found the following. On training the Iraqi military, we spent $1.32 billion. That's just for training. That's just for training. And remember, they drop their shit and run every time they see ISIS. They shit their pants, and they just basically hand over all of the equipment and all the Humvees to ISIS because they're that scared. $1.32 billion on training, and then they just run in the other direction. Well-spent money, America. How about providing military, logistical, and maintenance support for the Iraqi military? How much does that cost? $2.6 billion. Isn't that stunning? Just like the upkeep, just the maintenance for the military, which is totally ineffectual, costs us $2.6 billion. I wonder if we could take that money and maybe, I don't know, spend it here in rural areas in America where the schools need to be rebuilt. No, that's a crazy idea. Why would we do that? Renovating and building Iraqi military bases cost us $4.1 billion. Again, money well spent. Supplying the Iraqi military with aircraft, boats, tanks, armored personnel carriers, and other gear cost us $3.4 billion. Developing an elite counterterrorism force, which has done, to this point, absolutely nothing, bupkis. That costs us $237 million. Training, staffing, and supplying the Iraqi police, $9.4 billion. Developing the Sons of Iraq program to train and to provide jobs for about 100,000 mostly Sunni insurgents. That cost us $370 million. Now, this one is one of my favorites here because what did the Sunnis do when ISIS became more powerful? Well, many of them joined ISIS, as we know, because former Baathists, many of them joined ISIS. So they're not personally religious lunatics, but they believe in having Sunni power over Shia power so much that they'll join with the craziest people on the fucking planet. So either they defected or they just were neutral, and they just kind of stayed out of it, and they refused to actually fight the Sunnis. So another $370 million flushed down the toilet. How about developing other infrastructure security programs? Well, that cost us $300 million. The total cost of rebuilding, training, supplying the Iraqi military, police, and justice system, everything put together, cost us $26 billion. I'll repeat that. $26 billion. Now, you and I both know that money definitely could not have been used here for education or for healthcare or for social safety net programs, or for any of a number of things. It definitely couldn't have been used here. That would have been stupid. It's not like we have a city called, I don't know, Detroit, where they don't even turn the water on, and they say they don't have the funding to turn the water on. It's not like that exists in America. Oh, actually, yes, that's exactly what exists in America. But we just absolutely need to take $26 billion and give it to a military which is going to shit their pants and run every time they see a bad guy. Now, I haven't even gotten to the most amazing fact yet. We spoke about this recently. These are stories that came out about 6 months ago, but the Iraqi army has been paying salaries to at least 50,000 soldiers who don't exist. And actually, I should rephrase that because that's not totally accurate. the Iraqi army, paid for by the American taxpayer, has been paying salaries to at least 50,000 soldiers who don't exist. You and I have been paying the salaries of 50,000 soldiers who don't exist. And this is part of this $26 billion debacle, this quagmire, where we threw money at a problem and we got absolutely nothing in return for it. Now, what's the main takeaway here? This is the problem with the imperialist so-called do-gooders, the ones who think America should run the world and we should be in control and we need to provide security. The problem is these assholes don't have an understanding of history and don't have an understanding of the religious and tribal and regional and nationalistic differences in the region. Because if they did, they would have known from day one Iraq is basically a fake country. It's three countries in one. You have one area for the Kurds, one area for the Sunnis, one area for the Shias. It's a country where the borders were drawn on a map in the 1930s by Britain and other Western powers. It's fake. It's made up. We made it up. So for us to go in there and try to prop up this fighting force, which doesn't actually have a sense of identity in Iraq, of course this is going to happen. Of course it's going to collapse. Of course they're going to run away. Of course ISIS is going to find a way to take the 2,300 or whatever it is, Humvees that they took. Of course they're going to do that because ISIS cares about what they're doing. They have an identity. They have a religious purpose. They're fighting for what they think is a higher cause, and they're way more dedicated than the people in the fake country who we totally propped up. It's nothing but a house of cards, man. It's $26 billion that we may have fucking put on a bonfire and burnt it, because at least then we would have got some heat out of it. As of right now, we got nothing out of the $26 billion that we sent to Iraq, the fake country. The answer is we should have never went in there in the first place. I don't know how much more evidence you need. In conclusion, and this is the most important point, ISIS would not have the armament and the weapons that they have if it wasn't for our invasion. That's not an opinion, it's a fact. 2,300 Humvees is just the tip of the iceberg of the weapons that they got from us. When we went in there under the Bush administration and we eventually pulled back from certain areas, we left behind military bases, we left behind gyms, we left behind Humvees, tanks, aircrafts, small arms, everything. We left behind everything. So that's what they used to then fight against us. It's the same thing that happened with Ronald Reagan and the Mujahideen. Ronald Reagan armed the Mujahideen in Afghanistan because they were fighting the communists. They were fighting the Soviet Union. That's how much we hated the Soviet Union, that we armed Islamic militants and said, this is going to work out good. And then later on, what happened? The Mujahideen, of course, broke up into the Taliban and Al-Qaeda, and again, they fought us with our own arms. So we never learn the lessons of history. Why? Because we're the imperialist idiots in the world right now. We're the people who always think, we can fix it, we can find a way to maintain power and control and take all the natural resources. What, did I say that out loud? I mean, can be the world policemen and care about humanity and create stability. Except you didn't. You made everything much less stable.